Does that make sense?
Now if you were,
Because you worked for Chase Bank and you guys went on strike as part of the union and you were picketing, now you have more authority to be on the private property because there's different protections when you're part of a union and you're on strike and you're picketing, but that's different than just a citizen who's generally expressing their opinion about a certain establishment.
I'm just saying, sir, that you keep on diverting to, like, if somebody would ask you to leave and, the private property, but if you check the way that the call logs go down,
right.
Walgreens did not call.
So this
and I know after the fact, like, as it goes on, the only other thing that I want to tell you is that when I told him and I asserted my rights that that's how it went, then they both went and they made a plan. It was him and one other officer. I had no other problem with the officer. He wasn't rude to me.
Yeah.
They made a little plan and said, well, what are we going to do then? What are we going to do to get him out of here? I heard that. And they went into Walgreens and they got the store manager and they told the store manager that I was making violent threats and that I was sitting in their parking lot and he would like, the officer would like, because I've got the store manager on camera telling me that. The store manager told me on camera that your officer was lying to him to get me to leave.
So here's what I tell you, you're right, I don't know enough information about the actual call itself or what that conversation was, because I can't talk to the officer because he's not here. So I'm gonna, if you're okay with this, I'm gonna get all your contact information. I'm gonna have to forward it to his chain of command because they're gonna have to actually interview him to talk to him. Like I said, I can't give you a case report number because we don't take cases. It's not how our process works. I can definitely give you my business card if you'd like, so at least you have my business card to know that I talked to you and I'm gonna forward the information on. His sergeant is out on injury leave right now, so I'll probably just send it right to the commander that's over that team.
Okay.
And have him, either he's gonna deal with it or he may have one of the other sergeants deal with it. But at this point, I'm gonna send it to him to kind of delegate, since it's his team that is involved in it. It'd be easier for him because the officer works out of the building, so they'd be pretty easy for them to converse in the morning to get the information of, so I'm not speaking in hypotheticals because you're right, I don't have all the details. I can't tell you definitively how the call came in, who was asking you to leave. I don't know any of that stuff, so I would rather, instead of me making a guess, I'll tell you generally, just.
I can tell you what he told me, because I recorded everything that
Generally, if you're on somebody's private property and they ask us to have you removed, then us telling you to leave is sufficient to get
what you just said is not what happened though.
Right, but I don't know, I'm just telling you, that's generally how it works.
So like the linchpin of like whether or not that officer was lying or not would be whether or not Walgreens had made a phone call, which I'm telling you the way that like the guy actually told me himself when I talked to the store manager, he told me that's not how it went down. And I actually saw them go into the Walgreens store and try and talk to them, and then he came out and looked at me, and the store manager came out and looked at me, and he just assumed that I was some kind of criminal, and he's like, yeah, just get him out of here then. Because the officer was really suggestive in the way that he was describing me sitting in his parking lot.
And again, I don't know about the original call, because I know the officer wouldn't go contact you just of his own volition.
Mm-hmm.
He'd have no reason to.
Well, you get a call.
There would have to be some kind of complaint that was filed asking you to leave the property, and I just don't know what that happened. If he says it was the property management company, that is conceivable, because we have like the big King Soopers shopping complexes where there's times.
Walgreens guy told me that was a lie.
Okay, well, and that's something you can deal with the commander and talk to him about, because he'll be able to get to the bottom of it to figure out what exactly happened.
Okay.
So, and then, could you spell your first name just to make sure I have it right?
C-O-L-L-I-N.
Okay, and what's your last name, sir?
Kingsbury.
King like a king?
Yep, S-B-U-R-Y.
B-U-R-Y. And what's your date of birth, sir?
10/14/88.
All right, and your cell phone number?
262-349-0395.
All right, and I can probably find, you don't have your case number from the actual case you filed here, the case report number with you. If you don't, it's not a big deal, because it's not really that specific case that we're talking about, since it was the day before, but.
It's in my truck. I got the information report number in my truck. I can't get it for you.
I'm sure I can find it by looking up your name. All right. And then let me give you my business card, just so you at least know who you're talking to.
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard of not getting a report number when I'm doing a complaint against an officer. It just kind of seems, you say backroom stuff seems kind of shady to me. I'm not accusing you necessarily, but it seems like if you're not gonna take a report and give me, or you're not gonna give me a number for anything like that, I don't know that this is going back to anybody.
Well,
And I know I have heard of police departments doing that, and I mean.
have you dealt with us before?
No,
Much
it seems,
till this
I mean, it
incident
seems
here?
like, Arvada, I mean, I have talked to officers once or twice, and my experiences haven't been like negative until, Officer Brown, so.
Well, here's the deal, and I can tell you, even if you called our internal affairs, which would be more within your purview if you wanted, because we have a sergeant and a detective that work internal affairs. That's what they do, is for investigating complaints. If you were to call them for this particular complaint, how that would get routed is they would talk to you, get the information, they would send it to the officer supervisor, do a preliminary investigation. So
Okay.
even if you called internal affairs, they would not give you an actual like internal affairs number. Because the only time we assign a number to a complaint is if it's a substantiated complaint that goes into an IA or, you know, kind of one of those higher levels of documentation. At
What, you
this
mean like
point-
a crime was committed, like substantiated, like something's attached to it?
Well, it doesn't have to be a crime. I mean, it can be, you know, policy violation or whatever else.
Okay.
So, like I said, this is the first steps. This is just how our procedure works, is it usually starts at the lowest level. We do the investigation. You know, at this point, it's gonna be a commander, because I'm a lieutenant, but that team doesn't have a lieutenant. They have just a commander. So he would get it, he would talk to the officer or delegate it to a sergeant to talk to the officer, try to get information, be back in contact with you on what the results of that were.
So he is gonna call me, I don't have to go out of my way, like he's gonna get
Yeah.
Danny to make a phone
No,
call?
that's when I
Alright.
send him the email with all your information, I'll give him just kind of a brief nutshell. This is what this is about. This is the officer involved. You know, can you look into it, and give him a call back to let him know. Because that way it's easier for him to get the information from